इन्द्रियास्येन्द्रियास्यार्थे
इन्द्रियास्त्रियास्तते
रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ
रागद्वेषव्यवस्थितौ
तयोर्नावसमागच्छेत्
तयोर्नवशम् अगच्छेत्
तयोर्नवसमागच्छेत्
तौ हि अस्य परिपन्थिनौ।
तौ हि अस्य परिपन्थिनौ।
कोई वॉलंटियर करेगा ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ने के लिए?
I can do.
प्लीज पढ़िए।
There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self realization. Purport. Those who are in Krishna consciousness are naturally reluctant to engage in material sense gratification. But those who are not in such consciousness should follow the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures. Unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material engagement, but one who follows the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures does not become entangled by the sense objects. For example, sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. According to scriptural injunctions, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationships with any woman other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother. But in spite of such injunctions, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. These propensities are to be curbed. Otherwise, they will be stumbling blocks on the path of self realization. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. And yet, we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray. As much as there is always the chance of an accident, even on the royal roads, although they may be very carefully maintained, no one can guarantee that there will be no danger even on the safest road. The sense enjoyment spirit has been current a very long time, owing to material association. Therefore, in spite of regulated sense enjoyment, there is every chance of falling down. Therefore, any attachment for regulated sense enjoyment must also be avoided by all means. But attachment to Krishna consciousness or acting always in the loving service of Krishna detaches one from all kinds of sensory activities. Therefore, no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. The whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you so much. So here Krishna is telling Arjun, Rag and Dvesh, attachment and aversion. So Rag means attachment and Dvesh means aversion. Um, Mind has tendencies that mind likes certain things and we get attached to it and doesn't like other things and we are very averse to them. We don't like them. So this attachment and aversion comes because of mind and senses. Like when we touch something which is very cold, the hand automatically withdraws, right? Because the senses are feeling it. One may not necessarily want to be in hot weather. If it's hot, too hot, we turn on the AC or cooler or fan. If it is too cold, um, like, you know, taking bath, if the water is too cold, people generally will have a tendency to heat the water. So these are just the way how our senses, they don't like certain conditions, and they are uh, favoring other conditions. So these are rag and dvesh, attachment and aversion. These are also called as dualities. So these um, propensities or tendencies of wanting to be in a comfortable zone, it actually is not always healthy. It can actually cause problems also, stumbling blocks in the path of self-realization. So, in a difficult position, one has to uh, navigate with certain challenges, but there is a benefit to it. Like, for example, if somebody is able to control the tendency of being in hot weather and still doing their duty, or being in cold weather, still taking a cold bath. So, even though they are going through that, there is benefit to it. And it makes one actually um, transcend these bodily difficulties. So, this is actually called tapasya if it is being done for spiritual advancement. Tapasya means accepting bodily inconveniences for spiritual advancement. So, here it is mentioned that these can be stumbling blocks. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining how the sense gratification tendency encage us, puts us in a cage. Like, if you see a rat or a mouse, if you want to put a trap, what do you do? Can anybody tell? What do you
Putting a
do if you
trap.
want? Yes, but Mataji, can you repeat?
I said if you put a trap in there, then the animal gets
Yeah.
trapped.
What do you have to put in the trap?
Oh, something to lure them,
Yes.
something to attract them, like
Like what can you give in? Yeah, some
food
kind of a
for
food, right? So that is the mouse or the rat comes and gets attracted because of the senses, because of the tongue, because of the taste. So that is how is trapped. So the scriptures gave examples of so many different living entities who get into trouble because of not discriminating properly how to use the senses. Because the animals cannot discriminate like humans. So, patang, matang, kurang, bhrang. So there are moth. Many times you see moth is flying and seeing anything bright light and want to go and just sit on it or just go into it, get so much mesmerized with it. um, in the past, many of you may have seen how if there's some light and the moth, you'll see a lot of insects around it, moth or something, right? I remember one time I was seeing, and there was a light, and this moth was wanting to go in and was banging, dung, 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 like this. Sometimes even in the flame of fire, they go and they actually get into trouble. Especially if it is fire, they get burned. So like this, there are different living entities who get trapped. Fish get trapped because fish, if you throw a bait, the fish thinks it's a food, going to eat and get cut. So for humans also, each of the senses can actually distract them and engage them in material consciousness and bring them down from spiritual to material level. We've discussed the story of Vishwamitra in the past, that how Vishwamitra, he was trying to control his senses, but so many distractions, and he was pulled down. So Prabhupada is mentioning, yes, the conditioned souls needs sense enjoyment, and that is allowed, but it has to be according to dharma. An example is here given about married life, that one can have married life and take the responsibility of a family and children and all of that, and use this particular setting for advancing spiritually, bringing Krishna conscious children and training them and the whole family to love and serve God. So that is perfection. But otherwise, without marriage, no such relationships will be there. Similarly, we can take the example of all the other senses: eating, sleeping, and all of these are basically a routine which we have to develop by disciplining. If one goes to the army, the training for the army is they have to wake up early in the morning. It'll be cold, but they wake up. They have to take shower sometimes in cold weather with cold water, limited facilities, and they have to come at a certain time for their training, and then they'll be drilled over there. So like this, if they go cold weather 4 a.m., it's totally not comforting the body, but they actually fight with what is their comfort zone and go against what their senses are saying. So this is how is the training for those who are in spiritual life also. The brahmacharis, the sannyasis, they are exemplary in how one has to conduct. And the householders also have to see how they can transform their household life to grahastha life, which is when where God is in the center. And when we are trying to do that, then one advances. So Krishna is telling Arjun to stay away from rag and dvesh, because right now you are coming in the battlefield for fighting and you're thinking, no, no, I don't feel like this is averse to what I would have wanted. So Krishna is saying, no, look at the bigger picture. Don't get trapped into short-term desires of the senses. And it is so true in our life also. We have to try to discipline our life with certain rules and regulations. And the more we are able to do it, the more we see one is able to get success. Any successful person, you see, they have achieved the success to follow certain discipline, certain rules. Now, sometimes things may not necessarily um, happen the way we want, even if we are following everything. Prabhupada here says that one has to follow the rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulation may also lead one to go astray. So sense gratification has to be avoided, because even when you're doing it under the rules, still one can go astray, one can get distracted, one can get too attached. And Prabhupada is giving an example that there is a chance of accident even in royal roads. Even in royal roads means road is perfect, but still one may actually land up having an accident. And therefore, one has to follow the discipline, understanding that sometimes the mind still may get distracted. So the more we are strict, the more we'll have chance of advancing spiritually. Now this has to be done for the self, and this has to be done in a mature manner, because sometimes this could lead to situations where people may get too proud or too depressed. If one is able to do things very nicely, one is very proud that, hey, I'm able to do. And when one is not able to do it properly, rules, regulations, then one may get very depressed. I'm good for nothing. So this is why one has to do it in a mature manner. Then Prabhupada is concluding here by saying, in spite of regulated sense enjoyment, there is every chance of falling down. So in material world also, one may try their best to advance spiritually. Still, there is danger at every step, and one may actually have situations where one may get distracted and may fall down. So it is best to stay in association and continue practicing regulation of the senses and avoid unnecessary engagement of senses with sense object. And this becomes very natural and easy when the senses are properly engaged. So, if we are engaging our senses in service of Krishna, then the senses will have good engagement and they will not get distracted. We can see in our life also when we are able to keep the senses engaged, then there is no time for sense enjoyment otherwise. And if they are not properly engaged, then the mind may go distracted. So this is very, very helpful option of keeping the mind and senses always in service. Prabhupada in the end is saying no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. Whole purpose of detachment is to become attached to Krishna consciousness. So we want to be detached from anything only to get attached to Krishna. That's it. If we are attached to Krishna, then no problem. So that is what I can share from this shloka. Anybody would like to bring up any discussion points here?
This is a very practical advice, very practical shloka that is applicable in everyday life. And if we can keep these words, these philosophies in mind, teachings in mind, then probably our life will be very fruitful and successful, as you said.
Yes, fruitful,
Very
successful,
enriching.
and mind will be very peaceful too.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So we'll go to next shloka. This is also very important. Shreyan swadharmo viguna. Shreyan swadharmo viguna. Paradharmat swanushtitat.
Paradharmasanushఠितात्
पराधर्मात्
Swadharme nidhanam shreya.
स्वधर्मे निधाना श्रेया
Paradharmo bhavayaha.
परधर्मोऽयं
Any volunteers who would like to read?
I can read.
Yes.
It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow in another's path is dangerous. One should therefore discharge his prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness rather than those prescribed for others. Materially, these prescribed duties are duties enjoined according to one's psychophysical condition. Under the spells of the modes of material nature, spiritual duties are as ordered by the spiritual master for the transcendental service of Krishna. But whether it's material or spiritual, one should stick to his prescribed duties even up to death, rather than imitate another's prescribed duties. Duties on the spiritual platform and duties on the material platform may be different, but the principle of following the authorized direction is always good for the performer. When one is under the spell of modes of material nature, one should follow the prescribed rules for his particular situation and should not imitate others. For example, a Brahmana who is in the mode of goodness is non-violent, whereas the Kshatriya who is in the mode of passion is allowed to be violent. As such, for Kshatriya, it is better to be vanquished following the rules of violence than to imitate a Brahmana who follows the principle of non-violence. Everyone has to cleanse the heart by a gradual process, not abruptly. However, when one transcends the modes of material nature and is fully situated in the Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In that complete stage of Krishna consciousness, the Kshatriya may act as a Brahmana or a Brahmana may act as a Kshatriya. In that complete stage of Krishna in this transcendental stage, the distinctions of the material world do not apply. For example, Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later on he acted as a Brahmana, whereas Parshuram was a Brahmana, but later on he acted as a Kshatriya. Being transcendentally situated, they could do so, but as long as one is on the material platform, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. At the same time, he must have a full sense of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So here it is very important to see how one has to understand what is my duty and what is not under my sphere of action or sphere of influence. So here Krishna is telling Arjun, and this is very important in everyday life, far better to discharge one's prescribed duty, even though faultily, than another's duty. So do your duty properly. If you can't do properly, still do your duty. Don't think I could have done that thing better. No, this is your duty. You focus on that. That is what Krishna is telling. And he's saying performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty. For to follow another's path is dangerous. So, in our particular daily life, we have to understand what is our path, what is our training, what is our duty, what is our uh, prescribed duties, what are prescribed duties which I am supposed to follow, and focus on that rather than taking another path. Like, for example, we see many times the mind tends to think whatever is given to us, mind feels, oh, if I would have been in that position, it would have been nice. I could have done that job better than this person, and try to find faults. This is so many times in the sports culture, right? When you're watching a sports and a player is acting in a particular manner, then all the other people, they're saying, no, should have done tried this, uh, taken this particular route of dealing with this uh, situation. Like in cricket, many times people would have said, "Oh, should throw a yorker or throw a bouncer," uh, but they themselves they have probably never even played a tournament. So and the point is that the mind tries to think if somebody else is doing something, oh, not doing properly, I could have done better. But that's not the right way. Or the mind may think, oh, I've been given this thing. Those people are given, such a nice environment, such a nice thing. I should have done that. That is not the right way. So the context here is that Arjun had told that better than fighting, I'm ready to beg. Now, begging is not for Kshatriyas. Generally, begging in those days, especially begging with dignity and begging for other people's benefit, was the duty of Brahmins. Um, not we're not talking about the beggars who don't have anything and begging just for material things. This begging was for giving benefit to others also. So Brahmins, they would beg so that they are not engaged, and so they are not, you know. full of pride. They are very humble to practice humility. But also, it will give them opportunity to interact with different people and then teach them or engage them in various ways
कौन सा फाइंड करें वैल्यू ऑफ वर्क
in spiritual activities. So this is what Brahmins would do, and Arjuna had mentioned that it's better for me to beg rather than fighting. So Krishna is saying, no, no, that's not your duty. Brahmins are the ones who have to take to non-violent means. For a Kshatriya, you have to use violence as and when possible. It's not your nature to not use violence. You cannot stay without having justice prevail. You will want to do justice to people. And if the justice is not happening, then you will not tolerate it. That's not your nature. So it's better for you to act in your nature rather than acting as somebody else. So Prabhupada here says Brahman should follow non-violence. They can be teachers, they can educate society, they can be tolerant, they can be simple, they can live in minimal life, they can live as a minimalistic person, conduct their life in that way. But Kshatriyas, they are conducted by mode of passion. So they want to be the doers. They want to do justice. They want to do fighting. If there is a battle or fight going on for dharma, they would happily go there and they will not come out. They don't mind getting injured in the fight. That is the nature of a kshatriya. Vaishya, on the other hand, they like to make money. They want to make money. A good Vaishya will come out of a difficult situation. A company may be going through bankruptcy, but if somebody is a good Vaishya, they'll be able to turn things around and make the company profitable. So that's Vaishya. Shudra means they can simply follow whatever the other members, Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishyas, whatever they are telling, Shudra will be able to do it. But they don't have a propensity for leading as a Brahman, Vaishya, or Kshatriya. So this is how people generally conduct. Now, two examples Prabhupada gave, which are exception. Prabhupada is saying those who are exceptionally exceptional people who are transcendental, who have transcend the modes are now not able to stop them. They can act in exceptional manner. So Vishwamitra Muni, even though he was a Kshatriya, but with his practices and his austerities and by the spiritual method, he was able to actually become very advanced spiritually. And so much so that he became a devotee, Krishna conscious, to the level where Lord Ram himself came and he was serving Vishwamitra, accepting him as a guru. And then Parshuram, who was actually a Brahman, but because of seeing the injustice going through, he had punished the Kshatriyas and he has taken the role of a Kshatriya. So these are the two examples which are there. These stories, both of these stories are very big. We have discussed some of these in the past, but maybe in the future we will take some other time. I will stop here. Any particular questions or anything, any discussion points from this shloka?
Prabhuji, what I hear about India, and I have seen myself too, in the Puri Mandir, temple, some Brahmins, if they don't get money that they desire to get, they'll give you shraps. They'll curse you. And so I don't know. There are always what I'm hearing now that people, Brahmana or Kasta or whoever, the culture has become a bribe culture. So, I mean, from top to bottom, they take bribes to do a work which used to exist, but now it has multiplied. So it's sad to see that our society, a Gita loaded society, yet There are these type of problems exist. Just a comment.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Actually, Bhagavad Gita talks about how Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is by the qualities and not by birth. In fact, Krishna says, Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, that I have these distinction based upon qualities, guna and activities, karma, um, and not by birth. In fact, so these are the qualities by which Brahmins conduct themselves. You want to read this, Mataji?
Sure. Peacefulness, self control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Mhm.
Yes. So if one is able to conduct themselves in this way, if they are pure, if they are austere, if they are tolerant, self-control, such Brahmanas take to the path of educating people. So Pathan, Pathan, Yajan, Yajan, Dan, Pratigraha. So Brahmins are very learned in studying the scriptures. And Pathan means teaching, educating the masses. Yajan means doing the yagyas and different spiritual activities, chanting, kirtan, different things. And Yajan, teaching people in doing that or
Mhm.
conducting these yagyas. So all these they will do. And Dan Pratigraha means they will accept charity and they'll use it for the benefit of the society and themselves. So the truth of the matter is that on one way, we can see that not many people are displaying these qualities. We don't have so many Brahmins in the society anymore, to be honest. And many of
Mhm.
them are actually not displaying. But the other aspect is also there. Those who are Brahmins still, these, um, because of the way the Vedic culture has been attacked from so many centuries. Initially, the Gurukul system was completely eradicated by the
Mhm.
Islamic and then British rule. And then later on, even the current government system, which we had, did not really revive, was not able to revive that, and was totally blinded to the fact that there was some richness and importance of the Vedic culture. And even right now, we see that there's not so much support. Even people, they are clueless whom to give charity to and whom not to give charity to. In US, if you see, the amount of charity given to people is much more than actually in in India, and the way the charity used, that is also very challenging. Many of the charities given in the temples are going to government, and government is misusing it in the name of
Mhm.
secularism and directing that to different other religious places other than that temple, which is not appropriate way of taking care of that. So I think there's no one person to blame, but there are a lot
Mhm.
of things actually which are the whole, and therefore I see that the independent places or religious places like ISKCON and some of the others, which are actually conducting themselves based on scriptures,
Mhm.
and doing welfare activities like midday meal program and so many others being conducted by ISKCON. Those are the nice places of directing your hard-earned money to spiritual activities. But I think the the Brahmins who are there, they have to be taken care also. They have to be appropriately. Government should have ways where they should not have to, uh, you know, be miserable without any money, because everybody needs money. And in the past, the kings were taking care of the Brahmins. If there is a good king, they were able to meet the needs of the Brahmins. So Brahmins did not have to hoard money. But now, it is not so much true. So I think it's both ways we have to see that there are a lot of challenges, and supporting genuine initiatives and societies like many of the ISKCON projects, I think, are good way of directing our energies. So this is what I can share with you.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Anybody
reflecting.
else would like to? Sure, thank you. Anybody else would like to bring up any other points? Okay, so we read till 3.35. I think we will stop here for today. 36 we'll do next time. Thank you very much. Thank you all the devotees for joining. We'll end here.